Howdy, folks. I'm Brian.
Pika pika.
And here's some Reddit. Alright, folks, our first letter is titled, Am I a jerk for being annoyed at my fiance for choosing my ring? Some background. I'm a goldsmith and I have been for over 10 years. I work part-time for an independent jeweler as a bench jeweler, and I also have my own business where I do commissions and repairs, etc. My fiance openly admits that he knows nothing about jewelry, but he supports my work. Well, my fiance is a 38-year-old male and I'm a 36-year-old female, and we've been together for 5 years. We have discussed marriage at length, and during these conversations, I have said that when it comes to engagement rings, because of my job, I know exactly what I want. We also talked about how I want to make it because then I know exactly what it is that I want, and it is also handcrafted and not a cast mount. This is how most rings are made this day, which is fine for most people. It would also be substantially cheaper for me to make it compared to buying one from a jeweler. So I could also have more ring for less money. As this is my literal job, he agreed and said it wasn't traditional, but it sounded romantic at the same time. Well, on New Year's Eve, he proposed. I, of course, was delighted, and I said yes. Well, then he pulled out a ring, and I could tell that in the box it wasn't a cheap placeholder ring to wear while I made the real thing. It was also exactly what I didn't want. It was a solitaire round diamond on a cast white gold band. If that's your style, great. I've made enough of them over the years, but it's everything that I did not want. I didn't say anything on the night, obviously. But the next day, I sat him down and asked him why he bought it when we had agreed on me making it. He said it was traditional for men to get the ring and that I should just be happy that he got me one. He also spent 4 times what it would have cost me to make it. Well, the short version, I told him, whilst I appreciate wanting to be romantic and get me the ring, this isn't what I wanted, and the cost is disproportional, and we should look at returning it and having me make another ring. He called me ungrateful and said that I should just be glad that he got me a ring and that I would learn to like it. Yes, that's exactly how it always works. You'll learn to like this. I'll tell you you'll learn to like it, and you will. If I'm the one wearing it, I need to like it. This is something I tell every person that I do a ring commission for, and he knows this. He's agreed to return it. Thankfully he can, and let me source the materials and the stones to make the ring. But he's really not happy. So, am I the jerk here? Alright, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
No, not the jerk.
Jerk!
No, not the jerk. Uh,
Just kidding.
you and him had a conversation beforehand. He agreed that this was important to you, and so he was going to let you design the ring. Then he unilaterally decides, hey, I'm going to disregard everything Opie said, get her a ring, and tell her that she's going to learn to like it like a kid who is eating Brussels sprouts.
Well, and that actually works really well for kids who are eating Brussels sprouts because they 100% of the time turn out to liking Brussels sprouts when they're told that they will like them
Yeah,
eventually.
definitely not,
So I do like your comparison here.
like, I just,
I think really what this boils down to is they had an agreement
mhm.
and they had settled upon what they both thought was reasonable, and he had agreed to it, and then he changes his mind and does this other thing. And I really feel like they should have had if he wasn't happy with that arrangement, then he should have talked about having a compromise, right?
Mhm.
And saying, well, I want this to be a surprise for you. Is there any way we could take a look at different rings and potentially recommend different jewelers so that I can surprise you with a ring that you would like? So,
Yeah. Well, and an engagement ring is something that someone is supposed to wear a lot of times.
yeah.
Like some people wear it literally every day of their life.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be expected to wear something that you don't like just because someone got it to you is just kind of like, imagine having to wear around something every day Like, yeah, it's like if your kid made you, something, and you wear it like one day, like the kid makes you jewelry and you wear it one day and then you hide it in your closet. You can't do that with a bad engagement ring.
Yeah, well, you can't do that with the pasta noodle necklaces either, right? You have to wear those pasta noodle necklaces until they fall apart. Otherwise, are you really even showing your appreciation for pasta noodle art? No, no. And the same goes for badly chosen rings. Anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for cutting my mom's allowance to pay for daycare when she couldn't babysit for me? Throwaway for anonymity. Yes, I can't say that word. Throwaway because I want to be anonymous. Last year, my husband, a 35-year-old male, and I, a 34-year-old female, had our first and last child. We were fortunate enough to be able to stay at home with him for almost a year by staggering our parental leave and vacations. But now that time has run out and we must return back to work. I asked my mother, a 56-year-old female, if she would be available to watch him during the week, and she said no. Fair enough, that's her prerogative. My husband and I researched daycares in the areas that we work and settled on one that came highly recommended. It was expensive though, and that meant cutting down on expenses, like monthly allowance that we've been giving our mother. Well, a bit of background on this. My parents were married for 28 years before my father decided that he wanted someone younger and prettier than my mom. For all of those 28 years, my mother has been a stay-at-home mom. With my father leaving, she was now meant to survive in a world where she had never really worked because when they got married, my father didn't want her to, and because she was raised in a traditional religious family, she did what the head of household wanted her to. I'm not even going to get into that man's hypocrisy. Either way, he's gone, and even though she's gotten some alimony, she didn't press for as much as she should have, and again, that's because of her religious conditioning, and she is struggling. My husband and I have been supplementing my mother's income to a hefty amount every single month, which was not an issue until we had to put a baby into daycare and found out just how expensive it was in this area. Well, in light of that, we told her that we would need to cut her allowance in half. We were not planning on starting immediately, and that we would take the financial hit for 3 months to give her time to adjust and to move things around. She got upset and told us that we were punishing her for saying no. I told her that that was not the case, but it's hard to maintain two households virtually by ourselves if we have to pay an exorbitant amount of our salaries to daycare every single month for the foreseeable future. She was still angry and asked us to leave. Later on, my sister called us, upset that we were abandoning mom and making her struggle just because she wouldn't do our bidding. So I suggested to her that she increases how much she was helping, considering that she still lives at home. She called me a B and then she hung up. So Reddit, am I really the jerk here? And some edits. I wanted to answer some reoccurring questions here. My sister's ability to help is limited and sporadic because she struggles with some mental health issues. It got much worse in recent years, and we're working on getting her disability, but that is a process. I guess that's why I feel like the bad about the comment that I made to my sister, because it was a moment of lashing out when I know that she was in a tough spot through no fault of her own. And as for my mom, I will work with her to make sure that she can go back to work, especially given my sister's challenges. My mother is neither lazy nor a leech. Unfortunately, she's been beaten down by being raised in a traditional culture and having it drilled into her what her duty as a wife is. She was then betrayed by everyone when her husband left. All right, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
Not the jerk. I mean, you're not doing this out of punishment, you're doing this out of financial necessity. And
Yeah.
it's not,
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
no. And it's not your responsibility to be supporting your mom in the first place, right? Like, it's great that you're doing this for her, but you don't owe people taking care of them just because you were born.
I can certainly understand why they would want to.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I think it's great that you want to help her, but I think the mom, it's important for her to understand that she isn't
Yeah.
entitled to this money. OP doesn't owe her this money. OP and her husband have been generous enough to offer this to her, but their finances have changed and they've got to let some things go.
Yeah, this isn't so much about trying to force or, financially abuse your mother as it is reality. You can't always say that you'll be able to support your mom forever and ever, right? And she would make things financially more easy on you two if she did babysit, but she doesn't have to, and you acknowledge that she doesn't have to, and I think that this would have been more if you had been like, oh yeah, by the way, we're cutting you off immediately from all funds if you don't do this. And
Right. It wasn't framed as an ultimatum. It was
Yeah.
just a consequence of our budget doesn't allow it because daycare is very expensive.
Yeah, and that's fine, and certainly I can understand why the mom is upset here because she's relying on this money, but also in this amount of time she probably should have been looking in order to find a job and whatnot too. I know it's difficult, and if she's been out of the workforce for 28 years, it's really hard to find work. So I'm not faulting her. I just think that this is a difficult situation all around.
Right. It is a difficult situation. And yeah, I think it's important. Like, it's not her fault that she ended up in this situation, but it's also not OP's responsibility to rectify it.
Yeah. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber, she has a joke book for us.
Yes, we will have a joke.
Oh, she hasn't picked one out yet.
I have
oh,
not.
You haven't picked. Oh, I thought you were about to tell me that you had picked one out.
How do ghosts wash their hair?
How do ghosts wash their hair?
Mm-hmm.
With water, of course. That's how everything washes their hair. So I mean, yeah, that's it. And then they use a boo dryer. That didn't come out the way I wanted it to.
With shampoo.
Oh, shampoo.
And we're going to have a second joke because this book attacked me when I was trying to grab the other book. So it really wants us to read one.
Hang on to your seats, folks. I'm sure Jovial Bobstein has a real treat of a joke for us here.
Did you hear the joke about the abominable snowman?
I thought we already talked about the abominable snowman. What's Jovial Bobstein's obsession with the abominable snowman? No, I haven't heard the joke about the abominable snowman.
Never mind. It would probably leave you cold.
It did. And I have Earl Grey.
I had what was it? English breakfast today?
We actually have a guest tea for ourselves today, folks. I brought out the English breakfast that Amber had earlier today, and I've let the tea bag sit in it for a little long by an order of hours, but it was a very fragrant tea. Like, for a English breakfast tea, I expected to criticize this tea and to roast it, but I'm not going to. I actually think it was a very pleasant tea. So, it was very good. It's probably the most fragrant English breakfast I've ever had. Let's put it that way. Like, I thought that they might have added, like, lavender or something to it because of how, like, kind of flowery it tastes. But apparently it's just regular old tea. So, I'm impressed. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Tell me, Amber, what is our morals of the story today? Well, I mean, I think one, if you have an idea about a wedding ring for somebody, go for it. You can't go wrong. Pick a random stranger off the street and give them a wedding ring. That's the first moral.
I don't think so. I would think it's more like listen to your partner, take their considerations into consideration when you are making a major purchase.
And the second moral of our story is blackmail your mom into babysitting.
No, I think the second one is just, there's not really a moral to it. It's just sometimes finances are tight and sometimes there isn't a great answer.
Yeah. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you here all tomorrow.
Pika pika. Bye.